Michael Taft, and tonight we'll do a guided meditation. That will take an hour approximately. So you'll be doing seated meditation, listening to me guide you for about an hour. After that, I'll say some stuff, and then you guys can talk with a microphone, ask me questions, or report on your experience, or whatever. And then when that's done, we'll have a little kicker silent sit for a few minutes at the end. So that's the lineup here. And in terms of the guided meditation, I'm going to offer some suggestions to lead you into a meditation experience, but feel free to ignore it and do your own meditation if you want. The only guidelines, the rules for the room are don't move and be quiet. Okay, so if your own meditation is yelling and running in circles, then you need to do that in a different room. But as long as you can do the meditation you're doing quietly and with relative stillness of your body, then that'll work. Okay? So let's begin. I want to start out actually with some breathing, not the pranayama yet, but just literal breathing. So if I say take a deep breath, try to do that. And what I see a lot of people doing is like expanding their chest. And what I want you to do is expand your belly. So when you breathe, try doing it from your belly. Breathe deep and just take a belly breath. And then just let it rest there for a minute and then let it out. So it works a lot better if you breathe with your belly, right? If you start breathing from your upper chest, that gets you into anxiety mode. So if we can keep the movement down here, it tends to help out a lot. So let's do a couple nice, very gentle, very pleasant, deep breaths from your belly. Good. And then we'll do just a tiny bit of stretching, beginning with just stretching up. Do whatever you want. Make it work for your body. You don't have to copy me. I tend to come up here and then breathe here for a moment. Again, belly breathing, not chest breathing. Always breathe through your nose. And then going off to the side. Opening the side ribs like that and breathing nice there. And then the other side. And then down in front. If you're on the floor, just do your best to all the way to the floor as close as you can. If you're in a chair, you just go straight down. And just open up the back of your pelvis. Remembering to breathe while you do it. Okay, then coming up, we'll just do some circles, so wrist circles, and then elbow circles, and then shoulder circles. Loosening that up. And then do the patented freak out, which is whatever you want it to be, but try not to hurt yourself or anybody else. Not a lot of freaking out happening out there, but I'm not freaking out that much either tonight. And then do some spine circles one way. It can be big or small. And then spine circles the other way. And then doing whatever way spine circles you want, whatever direction you want, just make them smaller and 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 smaller until you can't tell if you're doing spine circles or not. You never actually bring it to a definite end. It's just at some point you can't tell if you're continuing the spine circles or not. And that leaves your whole spine in this nice state of like openness. Good. And we're going to do a seed syllable tonight. We haven't done this one in a little while, so if you're used to doing it with me, you know what to do. We're going to chant the seed syllable HREEM, which if you were to spell it out in English would be something like HREEM. That's the sound we're making. We're just going to rest our minds open, stay outside of the thinking mind, right? Your mind can think as much as it wants, but you're just resting outside that in a nice spacious presence. And then allow the sound of HREEM to just keep flowing forth. And we'll do it together for a while. So just feel the energy of the seed syllable, the energy of the mantra as we sing this together. The other thing is that I sing at a particular pitch that's comfortable for me, but it might not be comfortable for you. So use whatever pitch works for you, and take a breath whenever you want, and start the seed syllable again. So let's go. Feel the energy of the seed syllable in your heart. Good. Just feel the energy of the mantra of the seed syllable HREEM in your consciousness, in your energy field, in your body. And then normally here we do some alternate nostril breathing, which you can do if you want. But tonight, as a variation instead, let's do Ujjayi breathing, simplest possible pranayama. If you know how to do Ujjayi breathing, just go ahead and begin doing that. Otherwise, what's Ujjayi breathing? Ujjayi breathing means, the sound you make, or the way you make a whisper happen, the thing you do with your throat to go from speaking like this to speaking like this. That thing you're doing with your throat. It's a thing, right? You're tensing your voice box just a little bit. You breathe a normal inhale, and then on the exhale, still through your nose, you just make that sound with your voice box. So it's going to be hard for me to demonstrate because it's not very loud, but it's just a normal in-breath, and then in the out-breath it's some kind of a Darth Vader sound. It's literally just whispering, except you're not making any words, and you're just breathing through your nose. While you're doing this, you can continue to do the seed syllable HREEM, this time focusing on your heart center as you do it. Okay, so nice, deep from the belly in-breath, and then on the out-breath feeling, and both on the in-breath and the out-breath you can do the seed syllable HREEM. In case you're wondering if you're doing Ujjayi breath correct, it's very easy to do, so as long as you're making a sound like, I'll make it really loud. Hear my throat? It's just a really soft version of that, really, really quiet. Other people might not even hear it, but you just got a little bit of tension there. Sitting up nice and straight, making sure you're continuing to breathe through the mouth and doing nice deep belly breaths. And just allowing the energy of the seed syllable HREEM and the Ujjayi breath to take you into a nice, relaxed, focused place. Or relaxed, stable place. Now as you get more settled, it's interesting because there's no real need to take big, deep breaths. It can start to just naturally be the case that your breathing gets a lot gentler, a lot smaller, so to speak. But you're still doing the Ujjayi. And focusing on the seed syllable HREEM as you do it. Good. Now, you can either continue with the Ujjayi breathing or let go of it, it doesn't matter. But just setting the thinking mind aside, letting it just be there without you getting involved with the thoughts in any way. Just come into meditating like the sky. It just means open, clear, bright, without boundaries, in simple, natural presence. And if you want to, if you need a little bit of something to hang on to there, then you can just keep feeling the breath, or noticing the breath, like rising and falling like a wind in the sky. But we're not really focusing on the breath. It's not a meditation object in that kind of tight, focused way. It's just something that's happening in the sky. The sky-like awareness that's broad, that's clear, that's bright, that's wide open and free. Totally uninvolved with thought. Thought is over there somewhere. We're just not engaging. And just being present with openness and feeling the coming and going of the breath. So let's do that together for a little while. If your mind is especially busy and it's really sticky, it's hard to set it aside, you can continue doing that seed syllable with each breath. Resting as wide open, wide awakeness, uninvolved with anything really. We're just not going into the mind at all. It's nothing to do with our mind. And we're just feeling the coming and going of the breath in a really simple way. So let's do this together quietly for a while. If you find that the mind has gotten stuck on some thoughts, just relax and let them float away. We're not trying to fight that at all, we're just not engaging. Fighting it is just another kind of engaging. So we just let the thought activity toddle on its merry way while we just remain nice and open. Good. Now feeling this movement of breathing in the body as a kind of wave of energy. Again, not focusing on it hard, but notice it more like a wave than like breathing. It's just a movement that rolls one way and then rolls the other way. Staying wide open, staying uninvolved with thought. Just feeling this wave of breath moving one way and then moving back the other way. Very natural, very easy, very open manner. We're not focusing hard on the breath. We're staying wide open, really relaxed, really boundless and free. And just feeling as if this, almost like we're in an ocean, and there's just this wave of breath that rolls back and forth. And if you keep getting caught up in thinking, just let each wave wash the thoughts away, coming back to just pure ocean. Good. Now, continuing to remain uninvolved with thought, just gently notice the energy behind the breath wave. So the breath wave moves in the body and it's a kind of muscle movement, and skeletal movement. Stuff is happening in the body. But inside that or beneath it or behind it is a wave of energy moving up and down. If you can't notice that, that's okay. Don't try to imagine it or make it up or visualize it. It's just stay with the breath wave. But if you can notice the energy underneath that or behind it, start noticing that. Feels like a wave of anything from gentle tingling to kind of intense life force moving up and down with each breath. Again, we're not visualizing or imagining, you're just feeling what's there. But this is subtler than the breath wave, it's just this energy behind it. like on the in-breath, the energy is coming into the lower body, coming into the belly, and bringing us into manifestation, aliveness, embodiment. And the out-breath goes up and out, the top of the head, and fills the whole sky, becomes the sky. We become the sky, the whole universe. Again, we're not visualizing that, we're just kind of feeling it. Each time the energy goes out and becomes all space, the universe, just let the mind completely dissolve. There's zero mind activity, there's no imagination, there's no thought, there's just openness and clear awakeness each time on that out-breath. Good. Now notice if it's available to you. Underneath that energy, there's just sky-like space. Inside the body, as the energy's inside the body, inside that, there's just vast, boundless space. Outside, there's vast, boundless space. It's one space, without boundaries. If you want to, on an out-breath, you just breathe out into space and then just stay there. It just stays all the way wide open, without imagining, without pretending, just noticing space. Absolutely wide open, centerless, boundless, natural presence. And let it rest there. And now what we're going to do for a little while is nothing. And so just notice if you try to do anything at all. Try to use your mind in a certain way, try to focus in a certain way, try to meditate, try to do anything at all. You just relax and don't do that. We're just resting in a space which is not doing anything at all. Again, if you pick something up, oh, here's an interesting thought toy, and you start playing with it, as soon as you notice, just relax and let it drop. So the challenge here is to just not do anything at all. But rather just comfortably, naturally be present. Notice you don't have to do anything at all to be present. That's just happening. But we're really, really habituated to doing stuff with our mind. So the challenge here is, can you keep just dropping that? Just drop it. And instead, don't pick it back up. But you will, and if you do, as soon as you notice, then just let go again. Notice we're not stopping thinking. Thinking can happen as much as it wants. We're just not doing anything with it at all, including paying attention to it. We're just letting it be. So I call this dropping the ball, because it's like every time you pick up the mind, it's like grabbing onto the ball. And what I want you to do is just every time you notice that you grabbed on, you just relax and let it go. Come back to doing absolutely nothing. Not concentrating, not meditating, but not sitting there thinking either. If it's too difficult and you just find yourself continuously grabbing onto thought, then just remain as open sky-like space and focus on the breathing again a little bit. It'll give you something to do. But the challenge here is to not do anything at all. Simply, naturally, without any effort, resting as openness, as awakeness. You don't have to try to be openness, you already are openness. You don't have to try to be or create awakeness, you already are awakeness. All we're doing is not getting involved with thinking. And not doing. Sometimes you get involved in a strategy here to try to do it, like I'm going to focus on something external and visual, or I'm going to, but then you're doing something. Because as soon as you're strategizing, you're in your mind again. So just let go of all that. No strategy. totally natural, zero effort. Expressing what you always already are from the beginningless beginning. Doesn't take any effort. It's all the grabbing onto thinking and playing with that, and that's the effort. So we just drop that. And simply be our boundless, timeless, wide awake, wide openness. That's not something you become or something you cultivate. That's always been there. If we're cultivating anything, it's just we're remembering how to let go of distraction. That's it. Remembering, recalling how to simply be without any doing at all. Good. So from this place outside time, outside space, outside thought, outside constructiveness, outside imagination, outside any kind of fabrication, let's allow this seed syllable HREEM to arise again and express our primordial awakeness together. unborn, undying, ever free, wide awake, utterly joyous. Good. Let's end that there. So there's different ways to look at things. There's not one right way, but one way among the ways to look at things is that there's a kind of primordial awakeness that is utterly and totally uncreated. It didn't come from anywhere, it's not going to go anywhere. And in one way of looking at it, it's not doing anything at all. Again, it's just one way of looking at it, but in one way of looking at it, it's utterly still, it's utterly silent, it's utterly peaceful, it's utterly beautiful, it's utterly loving. And it's just there. And you don't cultivate it, and you don't imagine it, and you don't somehow connect with it, and you don't, build it or something. It's just there. It's always been there. You don't earn it or somehow gain entry. It's always there. And in fact, the you that you mistake yourself to be is simply its creation. It's imagining. That thing that seems to do all the stuff and go around taking actions and go around making decisions and having feelings about those decisions and all of that is just its dream. The real, actual you is unborn, undying awakeness. It's not a personality, it's not thoughts and feelings, it's not likes and dislikes, but it's not somehow cold and neutral either. It's joyous, it's loving, it's wide awake, it's beautiful, very beautiful. And never does anything. It's just being. And so it's interesting, a lot of our meditation practice is about doing something, and we often, because we're coming from the sock puppet, we're coming from pretending to be a thought and feeling meat body that does, because we're kind of misidentified there and we're coming from that perspective, we feel like we have to do meditation. And as long as we're really fixated in that perspective, we do. Because you gotta sort of calm things down and clear things out and get stuff sort of sorted so that it's settled enough, all the dust and particulate matter and clouds are settled enough that everything gets clear enough that you can start to really notice what you actually are, which is this wide awake, wide open source. But when you start noticing that and being able to kind of rest there a little bit, then all that activity doesn't make any sense. You don't need to do anything at that point. Because the more that you try, you're just going back out into the fantasy, back out into the sock puppet, back out into the dream. And so there's an interesting kind of inversion point there where for a while it makes total sense to try really hard and do our practice. And then at a certain point you just got to let it all settle. Just let go. And recognize that any doing of any kind is coming from that egoic thinker entity, which is just a complete fantasy. That's a picture in our mind. And so at a certain point it's not like, oh, I have reached that point in my life and that's the certain point. I mean, maybe every day, we do a certain amount of on-purpose meditation, and then when you can tell it's settled enough, you can feel that peace and stillness and joy and beauty right there. It's right there. Not very much is getting in the way. Then you just truly let go and remember that that's what you've always been, and just rest. And all the doing at that point has nothing to do, because you're not pretending to be that doing person anymore. Weirdly, you can rest in that place and everything will still happen. It's not like then you just sit there on the couch and watch reruns. Are there reruns anymore? What's a rerun, right? You just sit on the couch. It's not like you just sit on the couch. You still do everything. It's just not really coming from that egoic place. And again, this is just one way of looking at it, because another way of looking at it is that source, that unborn source energy that we really are, is giving birth to all this creatively, doing all this vibrantly and with tremendous Shakti, tremendous energy, tremendous vibrancy, tremendous, part of the joy is the joy of making all this. But even from that viewpoint, it's important to remember the source, that we are the source. And in that viewpoint, we're also everything, but not any particular thing. That's the interesting thing. That's part of the fantasy, is even if we're really aware of the energy and the beauty and the joy of all this, here it all is, we pretend we're just this one little corner of it. Oh, I'm just this one little corner of it, and there's the rest of it. But the part of it that's me is just this corner of it. No. From that viewpoint, we're giving birth to the whole world, and every appearance in the world is vibrant, wide awake, wide openness, exuberating itself in tremendous energy and beauty. We're all of it. All of it, all of it. Not just one corner of it. So it's an interesting thing to see if you're even ever in a spot where you can just come back to what you actually are, which is just being. And the funny thing is, you can't do that in your mind. If you try to use your mind to do it, you're sunk. Doesn't work. Because the mind is always doing. It's doing. You have to be able to step out of that identification with the mind and just relax into what you actually are, which is source. Anyway, That's what I'm thinking about. Do you want to do the microphone? Oh, Sam's got it, sorry. Thanks, Antonio. Sam, I was going to say, Sam used to have it, so if you have a comment or a question or a report, or let's say a blistering critique or whatever, raise your hand and we'll bring the microphone around and you can talk into it. Remember, everyone just had a meditation experience, so it might be kind of open and vulnerable, so be very mindful of your speech. And also remember, you might be open and vulnerable, and this is being broadcast live to the entire internet, where everyone's really gentle and kind. So, just, those are some things to remember. So if you want to make sounds into that microphone in front of the group, raise your hand.
Hi, Michael. I've heard you say...
Who's talking to me? Oh, hi.
Hi. I've heard the source is talking.
Yes.
When you talk about source, I often hear you also say that we, our true selves are joy, pure joy and pure love. And my mind always reacts with, if we're everything, aren't we also pure anger? Aren't we also, ugly and grumpy? Like, how is it that we can assert that we are pure joy and love and not pure hate and anger?
Sure, great question. And in terms of the appearance, in terms of all this, that's true. You have to have all the opposites to have this. Okay? But then, I'm just going to make a clumsy metaphor, I'm sorry. So all on the screen, you have to have all the colors to have anything at all. But the screen itself is different. And what's weird is, in that metaphor, is there's a tendency to say, well, then that's totally neutral. It's not good or bad, it's not loving or hating, right? That would be the kind of mood that you would expect, but that's not it. Because the screen is so loving, it makes all this possible. It's so joyous, it creates all this. So it's a different thing than the appearance is joy and appearance is hate and all that we have here. Right, it's the like, why is there anything at all? Because something is so kind to make room for everything to happen. It's a different level, okay? It's not the kind of play of opposites that makes appearance happen. That's why. I won't ask if that made sense. I know better.
Hey, thanks a bunch.
Yeah. Welcome a bunch.
Thank you. So there's this quality of like checking, monitoring that seems to get in the way of resting as awareness. Sure. And I'm curious about the right balance of that quality in the context of, is the mind playing with something and do I need to drop it, versus that quality of checking being in fact the thing that the mind is playing with?
Well, it is a thing the mind is playing with for sure. It's just a subtler thing than the usual stuff it's playing with. So you're noticing it now, and then over time that will start to calm down too. So we get more and more attuned to resting. So it might take a while. We're really, really habituated to doing a lot. Wheels within wheels of stuff checking and doing, and so give it time to calm down. The only big no-no with this particular way of sitting is if you're actually just falling asleep or spaced out in the sense of like kind of in a semi-dream or whatever, then wake yourself up. But sort of continuously checking is meditating. right? And again, we did meditation for most of the night tonight, like it was only like the last 10 minutes that we did nothing. So meditating is fine, doing something is fine, as I was saying, but then drop it to whatever extent you can, including the checking, including even placing your mind, right? I was talking about this using other language, but when we start to do nothing, there can be a tendency to put our mind on something simple and sort of shamatha there, sort of meditate on that. And it's like, no, you just placed your mind, and so now you're doing something. It's like you just let go of that and let it be unfixated. Okay? Yep. Takes a while.
So the bumper, at the end, is often my favorite part.
You just like silent meditation that you're in.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, why do we do a bumper and can it be longer?
Because I want to, and maybe.
Okay. I wanted to do.
Okay. Some night, I'll just warn everyone, one of these nights you'll come in here for a guided meditation and the whole thing will be silent. So, but not very often, but every once in a while. I'll just be like, whoops, bait and switch. I'm just going to be quiet up here tonight.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Eric.
The energy washing up out of the head becoming spacious, is that akin to kundalini awakening and like the act of tumo as an activity of merging outside the body?
I mean, we're doing a thing with energy up the central channel, so sure.
Okay. Cool. Just reminded me of that.
Yes.
And would it be okay to do that like non-doing for hours at a time a day as like a main practice?
If you can really do it. Most of the time people are either doing what in, Vajrayana is called marmot meditation, right? In other words, they're really just kind of half asleep and might as well be a marmot on a warm rock in the sun. There's no meditation happening, or even non-meditation happening. They're just checked out. That's a big danger of this style. So of that last little bit we did, not the whole thing, but that's why we did the whole getting ourselves into a nicely stabilized place, is that the danger is that people try to do a whole bunch right from the start, like, oh, I'm used to meditating for an hour, so I'll do an hour of this, and they really only do 3 minutes of this and then check out. So it's way better to do little tiny bits of it until it starts to feel like, oh yeah, the wide awake, wide open clarity is where I'm resting. Yeah. But certainly in lots of traditions you do endless hours of that, right? Like Zen. Other stuff coming up out there. Doesn't have to be questions, you can also talk about what it was like for you.
Can you say that word again? Sorry.
Zen.
Oh, Zen.
Is this on?
No.
I found I was improvising a little during the meditation and just doing the HREEM silently, and I don't know if this is maybe more of a report than a question, but I felt like it was getting a boost from it, like it felt really buzzy and made me feel more connected.
Yeah, that's a seed syllable doing its work, right? They're buzzy and they're energizing, and it brings you into meditation. So good. And, as I said at the beginning, if you want, you can follow the instructions I'm giving, but if, that was working for you and you went and did that, fabulous.
So it's okay to keep doing that.
Yeah.
because
Absolutely. But, that's shamatha, right? And it's very energizing shamatha. You're getting yourself to a deeper place. So wonderful.
sometimes I keep finding myself wondering why I do this at all, or not do this at all.
Yeah, why do you do this at all?
I'm wondering if it's sort of like looking for who's doing this, where I have to keep asking the question and looking, but actually the trick is it's not there.
The trick is maybe no one's doing anything. Or maybe you notice that the thing that you're looking for, it's already there. Right? It's how many people have heard me tell the Mullah Nusradin looking for his keys joke? Right? Raise your hand if you've heard. Okay, famous teaching story. Almost no one in the room has heard it, so I will say it now, even though you've heard it. It's late at night. Mullah Nasruddin was at a party with his friends, and then afterwards he leaves, and then the rest of them come out, and he's out in the dark, hunting around in the grass looking for his keys. What are you doing? Mullah Nasruddin, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm looking for my keys. Will you guys help me? Yes, they all start digging around looking for the keys. And there's a lot of people, and no one's finding them, and they're like, well, wait a minute. When did you lose them? Oh, when I walked out here. Where did you lose them? And he's like, well, way over there. And they're like, well, why are we looking for him here? And he says, well, the light is much better here. So that's kind of the meditative endeavor right there, is that the thing that we're looking for is impossible to lose. You've always had it. It is what you actually are. So it's incredibly stupid on some level, like it's totally ridiculous. You're trying all these methods and looking really hard to find the thing that you've always been and never could be anything other than. But the reason it doesn't feel that way is because we're misidentified as the doer, the sock puppet, the ego, the thought and feeling thing that does stuff. And so back to your question, report, feeling, it's like, so that question could be an inquiry question. You could use it that way and just be like, why am I doing this again? But it's more like, who's doing it? Who's the person doing it? That becomes interesting. So that's a cool insight that you can use that as a inquiry question. Okay? All right. Let's do, now that Lady Red left, let's do the part they love the best. Silent extra meditation. Thanks for coming out tonight and meditating. Couple things, if you're in the room, you need one of these to have a drink in here, not just a cup, okay? Because the floor is that nice wood, so just it's no big deal. But next time, remember if you want to bring your sippy cup, if you want to have a drink in here. The other thing is that the lobby is open. There's snacks, there's tea. There's a bunch of meditation freaks who just did this long meditation and probably would like to talk about stuff. So, feel free to do that out there with others. That's fun, that's community building, that's us meeting each other, that's a sangha, that's just interesting. So if that's of interest to you, feel free to do that for a while. We tend to stick around for a bit. The other thing is, Alembic is a nonprofit, and if you feel like contributing to help keeping this place going, our mission is that, you can come in here and meditate with me for free. If you don't have any money, just come meditate anyway. But if you do have money, give some of it to us so that we can keep the doors open and the lights on and the heat going, which is actually unbelievably expensive. If I showed you what it takes to keep this going every month, you would barf and go blind. So, so help us do that with your generous contributions. And other than that, let's see. Yes, I will see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.